Hello, yes, it's Joe live from this Hobie 16 in an undisclosed location near to the winter boat parking facility in or near to Vasiliki in Greece, on the Greek island of Lefkos, of course. I'm just trying out some new technology, so for those of you who are here already, I'm using a microphone that is just here. And hopefully this means that the scrolling back shouldn't create a noise. So I'm going to try it now with the finger. Any noise? If you can stick a comment there. Audio is not great. Damn, this means that the new technology is not working so well. Hold on. Let's see. No noise on the touch, but the audio is not great. Let's see. And hello, 1 2, sounding a bit better now. Or maybe I'll go back to plan A, which was to stick the microphone there. How about now, Jeff? Any good? If it is, I'm going to stick with how it is. Great, says Lorenzo. Pixelated and staticky before. Yeah, I'm not sure about how good my internet is going to be. If we have some sort of internet meltdown, I might have to switch to 4G. Sounds a bit expensive here on the Greek islands, but you guys are worth it. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, and a big thank you to everybody who's just tuned in. Hi Pierre, nice to have you on board. Oh, I might have missed some guys. And hi Rodrigo. Rodrigo getting in there first, closely followed by Jeff. Hi Sean. Yeah, so Jeff at Gear Report is, of course, our roving reporter for Show Us Your Cat. And there might be something very exciting on the cards for Jeff if it comes off, which is maybe a ride on a Nacra Evolution. Just to fill you in on what on earth is a Nacra Evolution. Well, Nacra have been one of the companies always up there leading the charge in the technology in the Formula 18 class. And the Evolution is the latest one that they've brought out. Their previous boat was winning races anyway, but that wasn't enough. They wanted to go one better, one faster. So they've, I think it was just, when would it have been? Last year, or maybe even this time, in what year would that have been? Oh, yeah, who knows? Last year at some point they launched the Evolution, and it looks like an absolute beast. Lot of volume, very long dagger boards, long rudder blades, to mean that the performance is absolutely bang on. So very much hoping that for the viewers, for myself and for Jeff, that Jeff is going to get his roving reporter duties on a Nacra Evolution somewhere in North Carolina. Very exciting times. Hello to everybody who's just tuning in. I'm sort of on, as you could probably see, I'm just on the verge of still being in the sunshine here. The sun is setting fairly early. Well, going down behind the mountain fairly early these days here in Vasiliki. But today I've wheeled a Hobie 16 into the garden, just 'cause it seemed a bit like a nice feature. And if any Hobie 16 related questions, or questions that could be answered using a Hobie 16 as a information transference device, I thought that would be quite nice. But thanks to everybody who has over the last couple of days been shopping at totaljoyrider.com. There's been what could only be described as a frenzy of activity at totaljoyrider.com, and most of the stuff that's been ordered has been total custom designs, which meant I've been pretty busy in the designing studio, putting people's designs together, but some really nice stuff there. And perhaps, hi Ian, ordered my Joyrider shirt today. Ian with the tequila sunrise with the yellow hulls. Oh yeah. I'm thinking perhaps we could do a I don't know if it's how this sounds, but with everybody who ordered the custom designed if how you say, if I could put together like an art gallery of all these custom designs, because some of them are pretty sweet. We've got all the way from just the sale number all the way through to let's get rid of all of the letters, we'll put our own text in, and that is what we want, just with a hint of what was there originally. Send It Sundays, hello, is everybody still with me? Yeah, I think that was this Wi-Fi malfunction which I was expecting, so I've just switched to the 4G, so hopefully we're still coming through loud and clear. Yeah, but hopefully once lockdown is over, or lifted at least a bit here, which might be in a week or two, then I'll be taking the 16 back down to the beach, and this will be the weapon of choice if there is a bit of sailing on. If the restrictions are totally lifted, then something that I'd really like to do, probably quite foolish at this time of year, is to go for a bit of distance on the 16, perhaps see if I can get round the island. I think that'd be a good day out. Bit iffy, but with the southeasterly wind that we get in the winter sometimes, that will actually give us the most wind all the way around the island, whereas the wind that we usually get in the summer, there'd be a lot of dead patches on the way around. Although it'd be like 25 knots here, it wouldn't be so much in other places around the island. So well, if anybody's got any questions, I think now would be the time to start firing them in. Otherwise, this is going to be the all-time shortest session that we've had. I don't know if you saw the video about fitting an adjustable on-the-fly jib traveller. Hold on, how shall I do this? Let's flip this bad boy around. Hi, Tyler. Good to have you on board. Right. Think about the sun. All right. Yeah, so one of the questions that came up from this jib traveller, hi Richard, on the fly system. It is a good system, very convenient, but is it actually necessary or worthwhile to put this sort of investment into your front beam on your catamaran? I think from doing the calculations and from having a look at, I looked at Murray's, which certainly from the suppliers in the US seems to be really leading the charge in how their website's laid out and the amount of range they have. All right, I'm just going to, all right, Send It Sunday said, I asked before and you said you're going to do a video on it. Oh dear. For traditional dinghy sailors, what is the difference in Mainsheet sheeting on a cat? Well, we could go into that a little bit now, seeing as we'll come back to this jib travel. In fact, just to finish the jib traveller thing, is it actually necessary to spend something in the vicinity of $200 to get this adjustable? It doesn't even work very well. It's because it's cleated. This adjustable jib traveller system. I'd say if you're racing, then yes, but if you're not going to be racing on your boat, then you've always got the facility to come in. Most jib travellers that aren't this on the fly system would have a little pulley uppy plunger, which you pull up, move it, drop it in, there's your new position. I would say it's not worth the money to change to an on the fly jib traveller system unless you are really wanting to go to town on spritzing your boat up. Then I'd say leave it as it is, because if you're out sailing and you're not racing, when is there actually going to be the need to change the jib traveller setting once you're on the trapeze? Or can you not come in off the trapeze, adjust it, and then the new position will be the right position probably for the rest of your sailing session? So I'd say the best and perhaps most a really good upgrade to do on your boat, if you're looking to do one upgrade, is to upgrade the downhaul to a 6-to-1. Now that makes a big difference if you're running something that's less than a 6-to-1, and upgrading the Mainsheet system as well, I would say would take priority over changing the jib sheet system or the jib halyard system that does get talked about quite a lot as well. Okay, so the difference between the Mainsheet on the catamaran and the Mainsheet on the monohull, essentially they both do exactly the same thing and you use them very much in the same way. Apologies for not having come back to this and made a video about it already, but some stuff does get missed, especially from, I haven't been through the previous live videos yet to see what the questions are that have come up. But perhaps it, like the way that you use the Mainsheet is exactly the same on the catamaran as it is on the monohull, but what it is actually doing is slightly different. Where on a catamaran, the Mainsheet is very much affecting the leech tension on the mainsail, which is doing a job more that the kicking strap would do on the monohull. And then the actual angle of attack of the sail, which on a monohull would be taken care of by the Mainsheet, on a catamaran, that is being taken care of more by the traveller. Big differences. So you could argue that on a cat, the Mainsheet is the kicking strap and the traveller is the Mainsheet. But if you use the Mainsheet in that way, you'll spend all of your time capsized. So best not to think of it like that. But in terms of how it's actually affecting the sail shape, that could be said to be something like true. Yeah, so I think that is the nuts and bolts of the difference. But at the end of the day, sheeting in the mainsail on the Mainsheet as you come closer to the wind, sheet out as you go further away from the wind. But then we'll also use the traveller. The traveller we use to for more general settings, which we'll either use for point of sail, so about halfway for the beam reach, most of the way out for a broad reach. But we can also use the traveller for depowering, where if we've always got too much power, letting the traveller out and then using the Mainsheet from that position is going to make a really significant difference. What we want to be able to do with the Mainsheet when it's windy is to be able to sail with the Mainsheet quite tight in. And if we can't do that with the traveller up towards the middle, then we'll drop the traveller down, sheet the Mainsheet from there, and you should be able to get a lot more in, making the boat easier to control and faster, safer and better. All right, so that is in a nutshell the difference between the Mainsheet on the catamaran and on the what's it called, monohull. So I hope that sheds a bit of light on that there. Send it Sunday, is it Send It Sundays? Scrolling back, hopefully without any scrolling it back noise. Send It Sundays. Yeah, so hello Richard, good to have you on board, good to have everyone on board. Thanks for tuning in. So Richard asks, which do you prefer, Hobie or Dart or other? Yeah, that's a good question. Because especially in the UK, there's always been quite a divide between Hobie sailors and dart sailors. The dart sailors are more seen in the UK as the more serious racers, whereas the Hobie sailors are all kind of more like the surfers who just shove the boat in off the beach and have a lovely time, whereas the dart sailors would be the ones at the yacht club changing their batten tension and going out and doing some racing. That is because before I started working in Greece, I used to sail a Dart 18 back in the UK, and that was very much the vibe. But I was kind of in the middle because I liked how the Hobie way of life was leading people to this kind of surfer-esque lifestyle. But I also like racing the Dart, so I was using my Dart 18 as a Hobie 16 a bit, running it up the beach, which was absolutely making a mess of the hulls, but good times anyway. But for me now, I definitely prefer the Hobie 16. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the Hobie 16 because the power to weight ratio is amazing. And it's a wide boat for the length, and which means you can really keep the power on and go very fast. The Dart 18, which would be the comparison, is a much less powerful boat, but still very quick, but it needs a fair bit more wind before it really starts shaking your shackles in your pocket. Yeah, so that is where I'm kind of sitting at the moment between the Hobie and the Dart. But then if you're talking about the other boats in the range, then it's basically, rather than the brands, it's just boat on boat kind of thing. Like back in the day, there was the Dart Hawk or the Hobie Tiger. Because I sailed a Hobie Tiger, I preferred the Hobie Tiger, but I thought the Dart Hawk looked pretty cool back in the day. There you go. That is a really good answer, I think you'll find. Okay, scrolling back, hopefully with no noise. Still, we're using a Bluetooth microphone. Oh yeah, very exciting times. It's actually the one that the guys who support the channel on Patreon have paid for. Do you want to see it? Just before we continue, here we go. Just this is a microphone. This is called, hopefully you can still hear me, Instamic. It is really that size. There's the finger, there's the microphone, and it both it can be used Bluetooth, but also it records onto itself, which means you don't have to connect it to anything. You just record onto itself, and then you meaning I, what's the word? Synchronize the audio with the video after making the film, and it means that we can do the audio with zero wind noise, which has been a real development. There we are. Okay, Jeff asks, are Hobie battens needed for Hobie 16 sails, or are there some generic batten options? That is a good question, because Hobie battens are, for what they are very expensive, I would say. But the good thing about Hobie battens specifically, if we're talking like Hobie 16 battens, they are ridiculously strong. You can do a whole year's worth of bad jibes in strong wind and you're unlikely to break any. They are very, very strong. Most other types of batten available will break after a fair amount of bad jibes in a strong wind, but the Hobie battens are strong, and it is one of those things where you do get what you pay for to a certain extent, where I don't know how much like the long batten in the mainsail would cost, probably something like $25 or something, which does seem quite juicy for just something so simple, but they are good, and that batten will then last you for 15 years or something, 20 years. So it is worthwhile. And if you are going to do any competitions with the boat, which even Jeff with the Sea Scouts, you might at some point have like a regional competition or a national competition, which is too conveniently close to where you sail, and you have to go and do the competition because it's there. But then they say, you can't do it with these Battens. No, it's strict one design is the Hobie 16. Got to use the right Battens. So I would always go for the right Battens in the Hobie mainsail, and then in the Hobie jib here at Wildwind, we put anything in the jib because we have lost a lot of jib Battens, and we don't keep a stock of that many jib Battens, so we'll just shove anything in the jib as long as it's the right sort of stiffness. That is the other thing with buying Battens. You definitely need to get Battens of a similar stiffness. If the Battens are stiffer, you'll get a flatter sail, giving you less power, but perhaps very nice for strong wind. If you have Battens that are softer, it'll put loads of curve into the sail, which if they're softer than the original Hobie Battens, I think it's gonna be pretty nasty. So the original standard Hobie Battens are as soft as you would ever want to go. So there we are. That is my view on Battens. But depends on the difference in the cost as well. All right, scrolling back. Following up, Jeff has got a few Sea Scouts boats that need Battens. Yeah, it'd be worth just checking out whoever your local Batten supplier is, or perhaps if we rewind to the aftermarket sales chat that we had and contact those sail makers and see what sort of prices they're doing the Battens for, and they would know what Battens will work nicely with the Hobie 16 sails. Worth a look, and you could save a fair bit of cash. But if you're talking to a sailmaker who makes Hobie sails, then you'd think that they'd know what it is that you want there. Okay, Hobie Cat Days. Good day, Joe. I'm guessing you must be in Australia with that kind of dialect. But hello and good day. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie. Tyler, thanks for clarifying. I had the same question. Glad to be able to clear things up for you. It's just nice to have you guys joining me. We are heading very fast into deep winter, as you can tell by this ridiculous weather that we've got in Greece at the moment. It is very nice indeed. Still shorts and t-shirt weather during the day. Anyway, as long as there's no wind. If the wind is coming from the south, then it does get a bit chilly. But there we go. Richard, love your vids and how you explain things in layman's terms. I've sharpened Richard's Hobie skills. Glad to hear that. Steedcraft. Hello, Quinty. Quinty at Steedcraft used to be one of the main guys on the Wildwind Beach, and he's recently picked up a Laser 5000. Now that is exciting. If you don't know what a Laser 5000 is, it's like an Australian 18-foot skiff, but for two people. They were very popular mid-90s, quite heavy. Round the island without going up the hills. Quinty is also a very keen cyclist. Is it tricky at the bridge? Joe takes video camera with you. PS, any more skiff kit coming off the Joyrider shop? All right, great questions there and great ideas. Okay, yeah, so at the north end of Lefkas Island, it's actually a very popular island in Greece because it is connected to the mainland by a floating bridge. It's basically like a boat that, how big is that gap? Maybe 30, 40 meters wide. There's like a canal, 30 or 40 meter gap, which then opens on the hour, every hour, for boats to pass through. I've never tried doing that in a boat on the sea. So it would definitely be very interesting getting through that channel on a sailing boat with the sails. I think it'll very much depend on what the wind direction is in relation to that channel or canal. But if it's really windy and the wind's blowing dead downwind through that gap, it's going to be very emotional indeed. It might even be a let's drop the mainsail, go through on the jib kind of scenario. But who knows? Because then there's a nice beach afterwards where we can land, put the mainsail back up. Probably a good idea. If it's upwind and I don't start from close enough, then perhaps by the time I actually get there, the bridge will be closed again and I have to wait another hour. Or perhaps the port police, who are like the Greek Coast Guard, they might say, you're not allowed to do this. You've got to turn around, go back. Here's a fine. Who knows? But exciting times. Anyway, also from Quinty, who is Steedcraft, any more skiff kit coming at the Joyrider shop? Yeah, let's do a Laser 5000 Joyrider t-shirt. I'll put it on the list. Good idea. Perhaps if you send me a message as a reminder afterwards, then I'm sort of in the flow state of making these t-shirts at the moment, so that's good. Nice to have you on board though, Quinty. Cars and guitars. What's the most wind you've ever sailed in? I think it's probably 35 to 40 knots, something like that. But at those times, you never seem to have an anemometer to hand. And sometimes the sea state or how gusty it is makes it feel either more or less windy than it actually is. So, yeah, probably gusts of 40 knots I've sailed in. And, obviously gets quite frantic in those conditions. But I certainly wouldn't even consider going out in wind even nearly that strong if it was with regular waves that would be associated with that much wind. We're fortunate here in Vasiliki that even when the wind is that strong, the waves never get more than a couple of feet high. Like, I suppose, yeah, sort of maybe head high chop would be the biggest that we ever get here in our normal wind conditions. So it does mean we can sail in more wind than most would. The sunnies are coming off. The sun is now going round the corner. All right, scrolling back. Scrolling back, hopefully with no scrolling noise. This is big development. Pedro Pablo, nice to have you on board from Chile. Woohoo! South America, baby. Do you have any tips about the geometry or better kind of trailer for a Prindle 18-2? I built one to travel around the lakes. So could you have any comments about trailers? Well, I've nothing specific about the Prindle 18-2, but with boats with that kind of shaped hull, let's have a look at a trailer. Let's flip this bad boy around. Okay, so because the Hobie, like we're always talking about the Hobie 16, but because the Hobie 16 has got this hull with this very hard, very strong keel line, let's call it, then that means that it's absolutely fine for it to sit on these sort of supports because it is extremely strong. That is not going to be damaged in any way. Whereas at the back as well, all the same. Whereas on something like a Prindle 18-2, same as an F18 or a Tornado, something like that, then what you've got is this very curved hull shape which is a lot less strong, which means one of the main things with your trailer is you need to have some sort of cradle, preferably front and back, to make sure you're not going to damage the hulls. Not have it sat on rollers or like these rubber supports like we've got on here, but actual cradles so you don't damage the hulls. That is the main thing. I think the Prindle 18-2 isn't extremely wide. I think it's only, is it about 240 or 250 wide, which means most trailers would have a wheelbase which is wide enough. But this is the other thing I would say to consider, is the wheelbase. How far outside the wheel is the hull? Once you get any foot, this, of course, the Hobie 16 is what, 240 something wide. I think once you go any wider than that, you definitely need to have a slightly wider wheelbase just to stop the trailer from being quite unstable. This is just what I think. Okay, so can we do this? So there we go. And here's another point, Justin, is this is actually an FX1 cover, which, here's big news, Justin, it does fit a Hobie 16. Woohoo! Who knew? Yeah, so that is very exciting that you can put a Hobie FX1 cover on a 16. Of course, the bow part doesn't fit particularly well, but this is I'm probably the only person in the world who would even have this on the cards, putting an FX1 cover on a 16. But from the trampoline backwards, strangely, it fits absolutely perfectly. There we are. All right, so there we go. That is, yeah, there was some extra comments about trailers as well there. Okay. Peter, greetings from Canada. Nice to have you on board. Must be getting pretty chilly there. My 16's been put away for the winter, hopefully back May, June. Excellent. Exciting times. Good time just to reflect and enjoy some great Hobie sailing videos on joyridertv. I think that is where we are. Richard says, I agree with you. UK dart sailors versus Hobie sailors. Like you, I love the Hobie vibe. Yeah, I like both vibes, the racing vibe and the kind of surfer vibe, but I like the combination of the two as well. I do enjoy a bit of competition. All right, scrolling back. Very pleased, by the way, that I've managed to turn the corner with the audio for the live Q&A. Getting a piece of technology to do what you want it to do has always been a challenge, but it is getting easier. So in case you missed it, the microphone I'm using is InstaMic. It's one of those things that's advertised on Facebook and you think, hold on, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's also completely waterproof, which is how I could use it on the water. Greg, hi Greg. Thanks for putting out your content. Been sailing 30 years. You've definitely helped me elevate my Hobie skill set. That is what I'm setting out to do. It's kind of like what I've been doing here at Wildwind for the last 25 years, but just started putting that into video format for a wider audience. But what has always been the best feeling that I get from teaching people catamaran sailing at Wildwind is if they've got their own boat or if they sail elsewhere, then from some good quality teaching and instruction, they can then go back to their boat and it almost feels like a new boat because they know all these new things that they can do with it and how to sail it more effectively, safer, more efficiently, in more wind. Perhaps they can sail it faster, and it really does make, for me, this is the most satisfying thing about any sort of instruction, is when you make somebody's thing that they've already got feels almost brand new, and they love it even more because of this information. So thanks for that, Greg. It's always nice to know. JP, hi. This is my second year sailing a Hobie. It's Hobie 16 holidays in France. Very nice. Looking forward to next summer. Just enjoying the Q&A. Hobie 16 is so much fun, even with limited experience. Yeah, I think the Hobie 16 really does tick a very unique box in that, regardless of your level of experience, it's going to tickle you in one way or another and continue to tickle you as your experience continues increasing, right the way through to when you feel almost like you're an expert. The Hobie 16 will still let you know that you've got more to learn. Great boat. Ben, hi. Hi, Ben. The boats are cheaper than the sum of their parts. Yeah, they certainly are. Sometimes I was told back in the Dart 18 days, because I had a very old Dart 18, it was a 1975, that at some point I should just get a new old boat rather than keep throwing money at it, because it was getting quite expensive. But yes, you are absolutely right. Scrolling back. Hutchie, nice to have you on board. Are Hobie 16 battens tapered? If not, a good upgrade? Yes. No, the Hobie 16 battens aren't tapered. They're just a straight section. But again, if you were looking at doing any competitions, you wouldn't be allowed to compete with tapered battens. But if you're just going out there and sending it and giving it some then perhaps experiment. If you happen to be a sailmaker, or strangely have got a large collection of quite long battens, then doing some experimentation, or if you're quite scientific about your sailing, you could do something and see what you could do. But yeah, I think the sky's the limit. Okay, we've got Rich on board. Hello, Rich. Rich from the International Hobie Cat Class Association. Yeah, I enjoyed your video on sail development over the years. I did have to watch it in a few stages because it is a bit longer than my situation allows to watch in one hit. But if you haven't seen it yet, Rich is making videos about very different aspects of Hobie sailing, and the last one was about the development of sails. It even has a bit of a look around the Hobie Cat sail loft, which in California, I should think, and it's a real insight and well worth a watch. But Rich says you can very easily find used Hobie 16 battens. Just have to this is a good idea. Just have to ask around. Many dealers have used parts, but they don't advertise used parts. I think that is an absolute solid gold tip for whatever parts you're looking for, because maybe one of the downsides, I think it's not just Hobie, it's all manufacturers of catamarans. All of the parts, as who was it who said it? As Ben said, all of the parts are expensive, and there's a lot of parts on the boat that it's really unnecessary to have brand new. So look for used parts wherever you can. Talk to your local dealers. If you Google search Hobie, if you're sailing a Hobie, that is, sorry to assume, Hobie Cat dealers, and then it comes up with a map where all of the Hobie Cat dealers are in the country where you are, or in your region, and then you can start phoning them, say, have you got any battens, have you got any corner castings, have you got any rudder blades, that kind of thing, and you can save yourself a massive amount of money. There's very little need for most of the parts to buy brand new. I would say the one that's worth getting brand new if you're going to do it is a trampoline, because a brand new trampolines do out of all of the parts on the boat, I'd say they've got the shelf life, which is the shortest, because unless you put a cover on the boat and wash it every time, the elements will degrade the trampoline over time. So that is the only part that I'd say is worth getting new. And of course the ropes definitely new, and rudder cams. There we are. Hobie Cat Days, you would be correct. Aha. Off to New South Wales States this weekend at Palm Beach. Now, is Palm Beach one of the northern beaches from Sydney? If so, is Palm Beach actually Summer Bay? And if it is, could you say good day to Alf Stewart, you flaming galah? Big fan of Alf. Oh yeah, there we are. He's actually explained it there. Summer Bay, for those of you who watch Home and Away, 35 Hobie so far. Fantastic. See if you could take some photos or video from that event, and we'll put it on Show Us Your Cat, just to see, especially for those in the Northern Hemisphere who are wrapping up warm, see what sort of events are going on down in Australia, because we don't hear much from the Australians on Joyrider TV, and it'd be nice just to have a bit more of a connection there. Richard, hi. Ever considered what a Hobie would be like on foils? Yeah, I'm not so sure actually. I think it'd be really, I think it'd be pure evil. Really, really difficult to sail, and yeah, it could just, it'd be ferocious. No, I'd yeah, be quite scared, I think. And also there's the thing that the boat flexes such a lot, which means it would be very difficult to get the foils aligned correctly. Oh, thanks, Hobie Cat Days. Nice one. Good on you. And yeah, say hello to Alf. Yeah, I think you need a very stiff boat to really work foiling, and the 16 isn't stiff, as we know. And also, how do you get the speed on your videos? Is there a GPS in the GoPro? Yes, there is. In all of the GoPros since the GoPro Hero 5, there is an inbuilt GPS, which after doing your sailing, you just upload the video to an app called GoPro Quick, which will then give you the option to overlay your telemetry, as well as the speedo. You can also have a speed graph which shows where your fastest bits were, and various other things there as well. But yes, all the GoPros since the 5. All right, we're doing well, by the way. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions as well. Hello, Europe Sailing. Smiley face, thumbs up, sailing boat. What a combination. Hello, Pierre. For a 200 kilogram team, what Hobie would be the best? I think this is a very good question, but this is actually the weight of team that the International Formula 20 class was born for. And from the Hobie range, the 20-foot boats, which would really do you well, would be if you could get hold of a Hobie Fox and you've got the skills to handle it, that is a great option. And I would think if there are Hobie Foxes about, they wouldn't be too expensive. We had 2 on the beach here at one point, but they are a bit of a handful when the wind gets strong, because you've got the same size rig as on a Tornado, but 40 centimetres less width, which does make the boat quite an animal, especially upwind. But the Fox was brilliant. In the States, you might be able to get hold of, sorry, I didn't get where you are. Oh, perhaps you're in, guessing France. But a Hobie 20 Formula or a Hobie 20 Miracle, because those have got hulls with more volume. But if you're looking for something modern, then an F18 will support that 200 kilograms of weight. You're quite a way off the minimum weight for an F18, but the F18 has got a lot of volume. It's volume which is your main factor when it comes to carrying weight. But for normal sailing, the Hobie 16 wouldn't be such a great choice if you're always going to be sailing with 200 kilograms, whereas the Hobie 18 Classic, again, this is what that boat was designed to do, is to be able to carry more weight because it's got more volume in the hulls. But a Hobie 21, now that would really cook, but whether you'd be able to find one and get hold of one, who knows, because it's been a long time since those bad boys were built. Okay, scrolling back. I hope that... Matus, 25 years at Wildwind, her great anniversary. Yeah, man, it is a big one, and yeah, it's good. But what's kept it interesting at Wildwind for a long time is from when I started here, in the first, let's say, 5, maybe 10 years, I really got into sailing the Hobie 16, but also that was when the Hobie Tiger first came out, and I was the Hobie Tiger guy. Canada. It was a luck. It was, yeah, worth a guess. Yeah, the Hobie 20 Miracle, worth a look. Yeah, so I was the Hobie Tiger guy. So I got so many hours on the water on the Hobie Tiger. I think in the first 10 years of it being out, I sailed the Hobie Tiger more than any other person on the planet, I reckon. But I was also getting into the Hobie 16. I'd only done a bit before I started working here. And of course, I absolutely loved it. But as I got better on the 16, I started snapping a lot of rudder blades. We were using the White Knight rudder blades, and I started averaging 1 rudder blade every 2 weeks, which Hobie Cat Europe were really good and giving us warranty on the rudder blades which were snapping. But of course that doesn't help when you've got a boat that you can't use sat on the beach because it hasn't got a rudder blade. So I had to actually ban myself from sailing Hobie 16s and only sailed the Hobie Tiger, which of course gave me more experience in that area. And then it was about 6 or 7 years ago, we replaced all of the Hobies. It would have been more like 5 years ago, I think. We replaced all of the Hobie 16 rudder blades for the EPO 3 rudder blades. And that was basically me being relaunched as a Hobie 16 sailor, because I was allowed to go sailing again, because those rudder blades don't break at all, because we've now tested them. We've got 12 of them, and none of them have broken. They're all almost as good as they were when they were new. And this is the best and most furious testing ground for equipment possibly in the world because of the amount of abuse it gets. So there we go. That was in answer to something that wasn't even a question. Hey, how is winter in Vasiliki Bay? Yeah, it looked pretty champagne earlier on today, but can't sail at the moment because of lockdown, which is why I've got the boat here in the garden. But yeah, it's pretty nice at the moment. It's a good bit of sunshine on, and as long as there's not the wind chill, it's pretty hot at times if you're out of the wind, so it's nice. But I do a lot of cycling, and it is glamorous cycling conditions, could say. Hi Christian G13, you always seem to tune in at this sort of time on these sessions. Stealthy Richard, hi. Do they still build the Hobie 21? Have you ever sailed one? No, I've never sailed the Hobie 21. I think it was called the SE, but I have sailed the I think it's still Hobie, the California Cat Sport Cruiser 21, because we had one here for a couple of years, and it had the big cabin. There was one we featured on Show Us Your Cat maybe 3 weeks ago, a 21 Sport Cruiser. It's got a big cabin that sits near the mast, so it's a heavy old boat, and it doesn't really, it's got the feel of being heavy, whereas the 21 SE, the Sport Does that stand for Sport Edition, do we suppose? Now that is an absolute beast. Still very heavy. I think the list weight on the 21 Sport Edition was something like 246 kilos. So, but what a weapon. Massive. But they certainly don't make them anymore. Ricky KM, nice to have you on board. Of all the things I miss most, racing my Hobies comes to the top of my list. 72 now and can't do it anymore. Well, Ricky, don't know if you're in Europe or in the States or in Australia, maybe South Africa, maybe somewhere else. But if you're in Europe, once the Corona madness is over, come to Vasiliki, we'll go sailing together, because as long as you can still sit for a period of time without some sort of back pain, then you can still get out there and we can give it the beans in a safe environment. There we are. You see, because that's what we do. We do have some sailors who come out here. I think the most senior of the sailors that come out here on holiday well into their 80s, and they still get out and give it a reasonable amount of beans out there. But of course we do keep an eye on them, and I think when you get to that sort of seniority age of years, then you kind of know your limits a bit more than these young chaps, and you're like, oh yeah, looks a bit windy. Either the book, the beer, or some sort of cocktail. Very nice too. But everybody's invited. Okay, Mint Boot. I'm guessing perhaps Dutch, maybe German. I just bought a Hobie 16 that's got Spinnaker blocks on the back pillars. It's a 97 boat. Have you ever seen a setup like that? Yeah, I can't remember where the standard mounting point. I haven't got anything on here. No. The standard mounting point for Spinnaker blocks are on the 16, but they will be quite far back, because if the Spinnaker block's too far forwards, then what that's going to do is pull the foot of the sail in, creating what you call hook in the Spinnaker. So the airflow is going to come off the back of the Spinnaker. Oh, there's one, Keith. Keith's well into his senior years. Keith actually lives here in Vasiliki, and he windsurfs. He won't touch a sailing boat for some reason. Yeah, so you don't want to have your Spinnaker blocks on your 16 too far forwards, because it's going to create this hook in the Spinnaker. So they will need to be quite far back. And I think the back beam is actually where they'd need to be, or where they are as standard, I think, from memory. So yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, Kev, Hobie Getaway from Ontario, Canada. Nice. I dare say you must be packed up for the winter. It just sounds ever so cold up in those neck of the woods. Thanks for tuning in. Where's me scrolling? Hello, Robin. Late to the game today. Yeah, it'll be available to watch at a later time. But thanks for tuning in anyway. Ben, greetings from Pascagoula, MS, Massachusetts. Is that right? Are you watching the Vendée Globe in the off season? Any favourites? I heard that our British guy, I should know his name, Alex Thompson, on the Hugo Boss boat, he just had some damage, which that is all I know. So no, I haven't been following it at all, because the yacht racing, it's very exciting and I'm into it, but no, I haven't been following it. So I know it probably makes me a bad person, but he's actually the only person in the Vendée Globe that I actually could say what his name is, probably incorrectly. Meet the boot. Thanks. In the Hobie manual, they look to be almost on the front one. Yeah, that for me, that wouldn't. Oh, Mississippi, says William. All right, let's just take a look. Yeah, because if the Spinnaker is finishing forwards of the mast, Rich says Alex has now finished the game repair and now back in the game. Yeah, that's what we need. All right, maybe I'll start following it now. Yeah, so if the Spinnaker blocks are on the front beam, then that would mean that the Spinnaker would have to finish way before the mast, because otherwise the block is actually going to be further forwards than the clew of the sail, because most Spinnakers will come back a little bit beyond the mast for a bit more juice there. But yeah, I dare say they're all different, and the only way to know if it's right or wrong is put the Spinnaker up, and what you're looking for is put the Spinnaker up, sheet it in fairly tight, maybe tie like a quick release knot in the Spinnaker sheet, and then just look at the tension like this in the foot of the Spinnaker, and then do the same in the leech of the Spinnaker. And if the foot is really loose, here's a cat, if the foot is really loose, then the Spinnaker block is way too far forwards. They should be fairly even, with the leech of the Spinnaker being slightly looser than the foot. Okay, scrolling back. All right, I think we're almost there, by the way. We've been going now for 57 minutes. Glad that the new microphone has been doing the job. Matteo, thanks for tuning in. Nice to have you on board. How many people work at Wildwind in Vasiliki in high season? Historically, peak season, which would be July and August, we've had 25 instructors on the beach. But last year we had to scale it back, of course. Like I think everyone was scaling things back, but we sort of pulled everything in about 1/3. So I think we had 18 instructors on the beach, but that is what we're looking at here. And I'll be taking applications for sailing instructors to work on the Wildwind Beach, sailing Hobie cats every day, because you have to, giving it the beans, taking people out and showing them how much fun sailing can be. I'll be taking applications from the start of January. So if anybody's keen to work here, get in touch early January. Like put it in your diary, send Joe an email January the 1st, and then that is the way. And then with the job opportunities out here, what we're looking for is firstly experience. So we need people who are experienced in sailing catamarans, sailing monohulls. You've already worked in Wildwind Mauritius. I didn't know that. Well, you obviously know, maybe coming there in the future. Nice. Yeah, so need some experience of sailing, because you do have to sail in quite a lot of wind most days, and experience is essential, and experience of teaching is very important as well. Qualifications, either with the RYA, that's the British Royal Yachting Association, or the VDWS, which is the German equivalent, are what we look for in an instructor. And then also we look for availability. I don't take anybody for less than 12 weeks as standard, just because the transport costs are too much, and I need people for the whole season. So having someone for 12 weeks, less than 12 weeks, isn't really viable. And then the most important thing is you've got to be good with people, because we're dealing with people. We're working in tourism, where people are the most important thing. And the final thing, but also the first thing, is you've got to absolutely love your sailing, because if you don't love the sailing, we're not offering much money or much of anything else. So if you don't love the sailing, you're not going to love it, because it's hard work, lot of hours, but you do get to do a filthy amount of sailing on really nice boats in amazing conditions with some really nice people. So there you are. That is the Wild Wind employment wrapped up there. Okay, going to wrap this up. Okay. Peter said, the cat's enjoying your cat chat. What more could a cat enjoy than a cat chat? Rich says, do Hobie send you stuff to test? No, not a chance. No, nothing at all. I think in all these years, nothing to test, which we've often said, send us some stuff to test. We'll test it and see if it works. But no, we haven't had anything at all. We buy things which then breaks. Oh, thanks, William. Good to know that the microphone sounds good. We've bought things that have then broken, and then we bought more stuff saying this broke and this is why it broke, but never actually been used as a testing environment, because Hobie Europe are in the south of France, where they do get a reasonable amount of wind, these Mistral winds that they get in the south of France. So they have got a pretty good testing facility there. But what we would be better for testing is kind of like the tests over a longer period of time, like over a 5-month period out here, which would be like 20 years in the real world or something. That's what we could do. But anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in. It's been great to be outdoors again, and hopefully you've all had a lovely time, and I'll be back for some more next week at the same time. So thanks very much, and thanks again to everybody who's been shopping at totaljoyrider.com in the last couple of days. It has been fierce over there the last couple of days. And again, thanks to everybody who's been supporting the channel on Patreon. That means a lot, and that is what paid for the new microphone, which works really well. If you want any more details on the microphone, just send me an email and I'll give you details. It's really very good indeed, as you can hear. Right, nice one, Hutchie. See you next week, and see everybody else as well.